Here.
Here, and I swear to you, that was my apologies. Can we please stand for the pledge to the flag? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes of the last meeting, please. Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please. No? Yeah. No? Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. All right. We are at the point of the meeting for visitors and communications. Oh, ABC license. Sorry. My apologies.
I mean, it's such a big deal. I can see how that would be worked over.
Yeah,
Everybody's
everybody's
obviously
It is a big deal.
everybody's obviously here only for the ABC hearing, correct? This is it? Okay. Let's go ahead and officially open this hearing. I'll read this into the record. Application has been received from City Coffee Incorporated, doing business as Fort Thomas Coffee, 1 Highland Avenue, Unit A, Fort Thomas, Kentucky, 41075. For an NQ4 retail malt beverage drink license, quota retail package license, NQ2 retail drink license, and special Sunday sales license. The application has been on file in my office for quite some time now, since you dropped it off. There has been no written comment or phone calls or emails of any sort. So unless anybody here in the peanut gallery would like to make any complaint of any sort,
I would.
if you would, by all means, go ahead and step up the microphone.
Is that complaint? So, this is Lisa Adams on at 5 Woodland Place, Fort Thomas. We are representing my street, which butts up right next to Wood Island Place. I want to remind the city that Wood Island Place butts up against a residential neighborhood. I'm concerned about the bar because we're now looking at Fort Thomas Coffee. We know what that's like. Our question as a street is, what does this bar look like? If it's grassroots and grind, that's welcome. But if it turns into Fort Thomas Pub, that's a major concern for our street.
Understood.
And the residents. So, as a homeowner on the street, our concerns are noise, parking, traffic, light pollution, drunk and loud idiots next to a residential area. So, it's a coffee shop, and now it's a bar. So bars play live and loud music. Is that what's planned? I haven't heard what's planned. I don't know. I don't think they know. The dance studio gets loud. And I can easily hear at my residence what music is being played. Will that be the same situation at the new bar in Citadel? I had to consider that the dance studio, most nights, full of kids until 8 p.m. is right across the street. But the loud music they play will be heard in the bar. Will there be drinking and music on the bar patio as well? Will that be played at the same time? Blaring music from 2 locations. Does a liquor license mean that Fort Thomas Coffee or Citadel closes at midnight? Or 2 a.m. like the pub? Again, this is a residential area. There's a 10 p.m. noise ordinance in the city. How will that be enforced here? Will the police ignore our calls when someone complains about the noise or a drunk person from the Citadel on our street? No one on our street bought homes next to a bar. Would you want a loud bar next to your home? Would you want a bright bar with lights, patio, street lights shining in your living rooms and bedrooms, and loud music in your bedroom at all hours? Right now, Fort Thomas Coffee is a family-friendly place. People go for coffee. I go there for coffee. I love it. We work remotely there. There's an under 21 crowd that goes there after school to hang out. Will these customers be lost with the bar? hours? Will they have to leave at a certain time? Will you card the patrons? There's concern about residential parking signs. Will they stay up? Will there be violations enforced? There's constant driveways being blocked. And parking is really hard on that street if you drive back there. It's just really too narrow. There's not enough spots. There's also concern, and I've had this week alone, of unwinding people turning around in the street. I've had someone drive through my yard just to turn around to pick up somebody at the dance studio. And will that happen for Uber drivers, people going to the bar? Where are they parking? So as a residential property owner, is there a way of, well, one of the issues in all this too is the idea of fencing. You know, that's a separate topic, like keeping out on a residential street, the public now views us almost as public property. And that's what's happening, especially in my corner. I have a lot of people in my yard all the time. And the only solution I see is a fence, but getting back to Fort Thomas Citadel, I just want you guys to be aware of our concerns. And I feel like there's a lot of questions I have or we have that are unknown. And we just want to put that out there and make sure everybody is aware that we live in a residential neighborhood next to a farm.
Right. Thank you very much. Sure. Would you like to address?
Yeah, I was gonna say, we actually have the owners here, and Christine, if you'd like to.
Yeah, Lisa, thank you. Those are really good questions, and I'm glad I have the opportunity to address them. First and foremost, we are inside a residential unit. So we are governed by an HOA, and so we do not plan to be open past 9 p.m. on weeknights currently. And do we decide 11 on weekends? It's 10 or 11 on weekends. So Fort Thomas has an entertainment district, and so we're not trying to be that at Fort Thomas Coffee. We're a family-friendly venue, and we plan to continue to operate in that fashion. We have a quota license, which is similar, or we applied for that, which is similar to a restaurant. So the children can be on the premises.
Specifically, the NQ2 retail drink license is effectively a restaurant license, so it's not a standalone bar license. There actually has to be a food sales component that's their primary mode of business.
Yeah, so as we've designed, I don't know, do you want me to address this way or Lisa? So as we design the space, we have considered how we can seamlessly connect each of these spaces. So the coffee shop moves into the kids zone, coffee shop, student section, into our more luxury seating and adult zone. And that's where the wine and cocktail bar will be. We will not have an expansive wine bar cocktail list. We've considered 3 different types of liquor and 2 beers on tap and a nice wine list. So we are aware that Fort Thomas has an entertainment district with new exciting things happening there, and that's where we will direct traffic after 9 p.m. So we sound, all of that will be governed by our HOA because we have 18 tenants living with us, and so we're all neighbors and we want to work together. So I hope that everything that would be discussed in our community within that building would be of benefit to you all too, because I think they would have the same questions. Lights, I don't think that would be an issue. That's something that was already pre-approved. We wouldn't be adding anything extra. There will be a sign on North Fort Thomas Avenue that will be backlit. That just is the name of the business, but they're all uniform per the guidelines of the building. The parking lot, there's 38 parking spaces. I've been saying 32 this whole time. I found out today, I believe there's 38. And then about 8 on street, and then the parking lot behind the Village Players that the city has acquired. So I think we figured there could be 100 parking spaces for community members for that. All the tenants of One Highland will park underneath. They each have 2 spaces. We purchased 1 for us, and then our employees have been offered the opportunity to park behind the 18 North building. And let's see. Drunkenness, right up front, we're like, that's not our crowd. And so we're gonna tailor our menu and our services to suit more of the casual, having a drink crowd. There are coffee shop wine bars that are doing well right now, and they have boozy coffees. They'll have, mimosas for brunch, things like that. And then just a casual drink in the evening. But yeah, we're not trying to draw or encourage drunkenness. Let's see. Music on patio. I don't think that we would, and I think a lot of this is already covered by any question that we had. It's a question that's going to be brought up in our HOA. What's comfortable for the folks that are living directly above us and have their own balconies right above us. So, let's see, 10 p.m. noise ordinance. Well, we have a 10 p.m. We can't be open past 10 p.m. on weeknights or 11 p.m. on weekends. That's already in our contract. And we've decided, I told Joe, 8 p.m. is my bedtime, so the 7 p.m. city council meeting is too late for me. So I would prefer to shut it all down at 8, but I think we'll be open till 9 on weeknights, 10 on weekends. And then going to Fort Thomas Coffee to work, we have designated a business center for that with conference rooms. And so we do hope that the coffee shop, all the purposes for which people come to the coffee shop now, will have their own designated space within here. And our interior designers have done a really beautiful job of trying to seamlessly, that everybody can find a space for belonging there. That when they walk in to the coffee shop, they feel comfortable and casual, and you can wrap around to the side and feel a little more luxury if you're entertaining a high-end client or something for drinks in the evening. And then, anything else? I think, did that answer a lot?
I think that Spring doesn't know the plans, and so there were a lot of emails that went around, and I was the only one that could get your designs.
Yeah.
I have it designated, and it affects me probably most, too, so I wanted to be here.
Yeah.
But,
well, I'm so glad you did, because it makes me sad that y'all have had to worry about this, because we're worrying about it with you. We really are considering who our community is that's living in the building with us, and now that's helping me to broaden that to who's living on the street behind us. Yeah, can I get you on our newsletter? We send out a monthly newsletter to tell people what's happening. Sure. Yeah, okay.
Thank you. And Lisa, seriously, if you all come with any more questions, obviously, Christine can get you on the newsletter. If you have any more questions, this is still being processed at the state level, so we have some time, obviously, before any approvals. So if anything else comes up, by all means, you can reach out to me. You can actually reach out to Christine. I think we can certainly answer any questions you might have.
okay. Thank you.
All right. Do we have any other questions?
I'd like to say thank you to Justin and Steve. I appreciate your concerns as well too, but I think you guys took a pivotal role in, that was probably not easy to come to on the anchor spot there at that development to help moving forward. We just acknowledge that because without your initial investment into all people towards it, obviously let's succeed. So thank you very much. I think you're doing great. The workspace, coffee shop, fantastic things there. So really looking forward to going there.
All right, great, thank you.
Well, great, terrific. Then we can officially call it 7:15 and wrap up the longest ABC hearing I've had in terms of Newport.
That's great. Thank you. We'll move along with our agenda then. Next thing on the visitors' communications, the Be Smart initiative.
to, first of all, introduce myself. My name is Rhea Vidrine. I'm a pediatrician. I'm in Lexington. And I actually moved here about 2 years ago from Cincinnati, so kind of familiar with the Fort Thomas area also. And I want to thank Ken for inviting me today and allowing y'all, or allowing me to come talk about today about the Big Smart program. And it was developed by Moms Fan Action and Gun Sense in America to bring together parents and all adults that are concerned about kids and gun safety. So one of the reasons that this message really hits home for me is, one, I mentioned that I'm a pediatrician, taking care of too many children who are affected by gun violence, either directly or indirectly. And also, this is a message that I've been trained to deliver and counsel parents on, for years, just about safe gun storage. So that's really the message of Be Smart that I wanted to share with y'all. Also, technology challenge, so sorry if it doesn't work well. So firearms, this slide mentions that firearms are the second leading cause of death for children, for American children. But this year, or in 2020, it was recently published that firearms are the #1 cause of mortality in children, which to me is just pretty insane. So before cancer, before car accidents, before anything else that we think kills our children, guns are the leading cause of death of children. And they're the leading cause of death in Black children. There's definitely a disparity there. So as this slide shows, nearly 1,500 American children under the age of 18 are killed with guns a year, and an average of 4 children every day. So when American children are killed with guns, the majority of those deaths, 53% are homicides, then that's nearly 800 children per year. Additionally, 600 children die from firearm suicide every year. Nearly 100 children are unintentionally shot and killed. So you know that approximately 4.6 million U.S. children live in a household with at least one loaded, unlocked gun. And while school shootings and mass shootings typically make national headlines, the reality is that children under the age of 13, gun homicides frequently occur in the home. And one study showed that nearly 90% of unintentional shootings and deaths and injuries among children under the age of 15 occur in the home. What's more is we know that incidents of gunfires on school grounds, 78% of those shooters under 18 obtained their guns from either their homes or the home of a family or friend or relative. I know this is an emotional issue, and many people come from different walks of life. Many are parents, others are just concerned adults who want to protect children like myself. Some are gun owners, some are not. You may have a personal experience with guns, some of you may own guns, some of you may be impacted by gun violence. And we believe that most gun owners want to be responsible gun owners, so I'm here today to talk about what all of us, gun owners and non-gun owners alike, can do to make sure that children do not have unsupervised access to guns. So thinking about a common ground, I know this is a very heated political issue, but this statement is not at all political, so we can leave all of that at the door and really just agree on 3 things. That we want all kids to grow up happy and healthy. We want each to have the right to make responsible decisions about how to protect our homes, our families, and our communities, including whether or not to have a gun in our home. That's our personal decision that no one's here to talk about or judge you for. It's a personal decision that we respect. And if we can prevent even one child gun death or injury, it would be our responsibility to do so. So I want to take a few minutes to specifically talk about the consequences of unsecured guns. So on this slide, you'll see just a few of the headlines from stories from across the country. And although we know there are many incidences that go unreported, and many since these 4 that we'll talk about. So some of you may remember from the news, the first story in the top left, in January of 2018, there was a school shooting in Kentucky at Marshall County High School. At least 16 people were shot and wounded. 2 of them, Bailey Cope and Preston Cope, were killed. And 16-year-old shooter had gained access to his stepfather's unsecured pistol from his bedroom. The next tragedy took place in May of 2018. A 4-year-old boy from Louisa, Virginia, unintentionally shot his 2-year-old brother Tyson after accessing an unsecured gun that was kept high in the upper cabinet where people thought he didn't know where it was or could be accessed. The next headline in the bottom left illustrates that when kids are looking to carry guns out of fear, easy access to guns can help facilitate the cycle of violence. So like 17-year-olds Zeke in Jackson, Mississippi, who told the Jackson Free Press that some young people in his community carry guns out of fear of being robbed or shot and believe that having a gun will allow them to defend themselves. And our last story in the bottom right is about 13-year-old Mikey from Brewster, New York. Mikey was a friendly, popular 8th grader. He was an expert bowler and an avid athlete and loved video games. In January of 2013, Mikey came home from school and took one of his father's unlocked loaded guns and shot himself. His family believed that he was a happy kid. They didn't believe that he had planned to die that day. But with easy access to a loaded gun, Mikey made an impulsive decision that tragically became a fatal one. So all 4 of these stories show the fallout of when young people get their hands on an unsecured gun. No story is quite the same, but all are tragic and all are preventable. So what is the Be Smart message? And this is what I really wanted to talk to you about and spread this message. It's important to remember that even if you are practicing responsible storage or you don't have a gun in your home, you can't be sure about what other homes practice or if they have guns, and you can't be sure about how responsible others are being. And that's why the Be Smart program becomes helpful to everyone. So going through the Be Smart message side by side. So the S is to secure your guns in homes and vehicles. So 13 million households with children contain at least one gun. And the majority of children in gun-owning households know where the gun is stored, despite what their parents may believe. You know, that was exactly what happened in my childhood when I was growing up. My parents didn't think we knew where the guns were, and we 100% did. We would go look at them all the time. So, just thinking about that, and we already know that incidents of gunfires on school grounds, the majority of shooters under the age of 18 obtain their guns from their home or the homes of a relative or friends. So like the tragedy that unfolded in Marshall County High School in Kentucky that we touched on earlier, he obtained his gun from his stepfather. So what do we mean by securing guns? Guns should be stored and locked and unloaded, and ammunition should be stored separately. I think that's the biggest thing to take home is storing the guns and the ammunition separately, and then ideally locked. Hiding a gun is not securing a gun, and we know that that can lead to tragedy. We talked about the 4-year-old Virginia boy who unintentionally shot his 2-year-old brother after accessing an unsecured gun that was stored high in the upper cabinet where parents thought it was safe. I remember Zeke from Mississippi who spoke of the complicated safety reasons that push some teens to want a gun. Keep in mind that kids may feel a variety of emotions around gun, from curiosity to fascination to fear. As adults, it's our responsibility to prevent easy access to guns. Research also finds that responsible gun storage is associated with decreased risk of firearm suicide and unintentional firearm injury among children. And this is especially prevalent in the pandemic when children are at home more, and we're seeing a huge increase in mental health crises. One study showed that households that locked both firearms and ammunition had a 78% lower risk of self-inflicted firearm injuries among children and teens, and an 85% lower risk of unintentional firearm injuries. Some commonly used storage practices include cable locks, lock boxes, firearm safes, as well as storing firearms unloaded with ammunition separately, like we talked about. Unsecured guns also contribute to the staggering number of guns stolen each year, which is something that I didn't know. An estimated 380,000 guns are stolen from private gun owners every year, and gun owners were 3 times more likely to have a gun stolen if they carried a gun in the last month. Research also shows that nearly 1/4 of stolen guns are taken from cars. So storing a gun in a glove compartment or underneath the car seat is not considered responsible storage. So the M in Be Smart is to model responsible behavior. So every law-abiding adult has the right to decide whether or not to have a gun in the home, but you can't rely on curious kids to not find the gun. So as we saw on the slide before, one study showed the majority of children are aware of where their parents stored the gun, and that more than 1/3 reported handling their parents' guns, many without their parents knowing. And nearly a quarter of parents did not know that their children had handled a gun in their house. So it's always their adult's responsibility to prevent unauthorized access to guns, not a curious child's responsibility to avoid the gun or not find it. So talk to your kids about gun safety, but remember that it's a precaution for this education, and it's not a guarantee that they won't handle the gun. Studies found that young children who go through a week-long gun safety training are just as likely to approach or play with a handgun as those who have had no training. So modeling responsible behavior means that smart adults make sure that kids don't have the opportunity to access guns. That being said, you can't control the environment where your child is all the time, as we all know. So you should teach them not to touch guns, and to avoid them, and to report it to adults if they do come in contact with a gun. But it is your responsibility to do everything to prevent the gun from getting to a dangerous situation, from getting them into a dangerous situation in the first place. And we have plenty of handouts that I can always send out for anyone who would be interested in kind of learning how to have these conversations. So the A is to ask about unsecured guns in other homes. So as we mentioned, there's approximately 4.6 million U.S. children living in households with at least one loaded, unlocked gun. So that's why you need to ask about firearms in other homes where your child visits. So the A and Be Smart is ask. So for parents and caretakers in the rooms, you may ask several questions about your kids going over for a play date, allergies, food preferences, car seats, pools, all those sorts of things. Alcohol if they're an adult, or not an adult, alcohol if they're a teenager. Obviously, it's fine if they're an adult. And then asking about guns in the home should be as natural as asking about any of those safety issues, even though it seems very awkward, just because it's an awkward topic for a lot of people. So just trying to make it as far as a general safety conversation. So having like a text or email, or even just practicing it and just adding it into the end of talking about other safety issues that you may be talking about, and it makes it a lot easier. So the R is to recognize the role of guns in suicide. And we mentioned this is something that is unfortunately becoming very prevalent in our country at this time, especially in teenagers. So the access to gun can mean the difference between life and death in a suicide attempt. And we saw that in Mikey's story. As our children get older, you may need to consider taking another look at your storage methods. So if you've been using like a simple cable lock, then thinking about getting a gun safe. We all know that how curious children can be. So as they get older and more resourceful, we need to accommodate for that and act accordingly. Also, if you know your loved one is in distress, and this isn't only for children, you might want to consider temporarily removing the gun from your home. This obviously takes consideration, so you don't want to place it haphazardly in your car or anything like that, but so doing it safely. Remember that most people who attempt suicide do not die unless they use a gun. In fact, 85% of suicide attempts with the gun result in death, and a much higher fatality rate than any other means of self-harm. And this contributes to the fact that 40% of child suicides involve a gun. So if you consider temporarily removing a gun from your home, how can you do that? Where can you bring it? Definitely your local law enforcement may be willing to store your guns. There's also some licensed gun dealers or gun ranges that would be willing to temporarily store your guns. Or you can ask a friend, as long as you provide them with appropriate storage so that their family is also safe. So the numbers on suicide. So the National Youth Survey conducted by the CDC showed that 17% of high school students surveyed had seriously considered attempting suicide within the last year. And one study showed that 41% of adolescents in gun-owning households report having easy access to the gun in their home. As we discussed earlier, research shows that responsible firearm storage is associated with decreased risk in child firearm suicide. So we have lots of handouts also about information about how to get help in suicide prevention hotlines. These are just some examples and some references. And the last one, Be Smart, is T, which is tell your peers about Be Smart. So we've heard from people just knowing the Be Smart message, they know how to ask about the presence of guns before their children go to other people's homes. It's made the conversation a lot easier, and they're able to talk about this with their family members a lot easier also. Through this message, people have recognized the role of guns in suicide, and gun owners are modeling responsible behavior as a direct result of Be Smart. So spreading the word, we have lots of postcards that you can also hand out, and just it's a simple message of just being smart. Research shows that law enforcement, military, hunting, outdoor groups are particularly effective at communicating safe storage practices, so spreading the message that way. And then lastly, just a reminder of the whole acronym. So secure your guns, model responsible behavior, ask about unsecured guns in other homes, recognize the role of guns in suicide, and tell your peers about Be Smart. And thank you very much, and I'm happy to take any questions or concerns or thoughts, and we have some handouts for y'all.
Great, thank you very much. Are there any questions? Comments?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment.
Yeah.
I thought your presentation was great on gun,
Yeah.
and then I think your comment about how many guns being stolen in the first month of being home is probably true, because I don't have kids, so I just used recently left out for a day before I put them away. And I think one thing you're missing is comfort level. People get too comfortable when they have them, and they don't realize what they have. You know what I mean? So something like that, I believe in them, but it's something to be said about that. That's something that people need to think about.
Yeah, I've had similar conversations. All of my families are gun owners, and similar conversations with my brothers, who some are believers in the message, one is not. So constantly having these conversations, and he always talks about how they can't reach it, and he's comfortable with them being out. So I definitely agree.
Gun safety never gets old. That's
Yeah.
There's some police departments, and I think we did we offer free gun locks, or do we still occasionally?
We have cases of them. This is the cable lock that you mentioned. You feed it through any gun and lock it with a key and take the key away. You got a kid wants to go. You got lots and lots of those for free for him.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank y'all.
Appreciate your presentation.
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else who would like to address council?
I just want to take a minute to, I know many of you here know this, but I sent Mayor Haas and Ron a message today, officially resigning from city council, effective tomorrow, so this will be my last council meeting. I was offered a job of a lifetime, which I couldn't turn down. So it was an honor to serve. I learned so much, I met some amazing people. But this will be it for me.
Connie, the job that you received is absolutely phenomenal. That is so neat. I'm so excited for you. We'll miss you here in Fort Thomas, and it's been a pleasure to have you on council. But my gosh, you couldn't pass up something like that. That is absolutely the neatest thing ever.
It's
so happy.
very exciting, but it's truly bittersweet.
Well, tell everybody where you're
I was offered a job as a stage manager at the Metropolitan Opera in New York City. It truly is a job of a lifetime, but it's my dream job, but I never thought it would come at such a high cost, because I love it here, but it's an opportunity that I can't pass up. So.
That's great. Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Very good.
Yes.
I'll miss it here.
All right, anybody else wish to address council? All right, we'll move along with our reports of boards, committees, and commissions. The Recreation Committee report was, sorry, Mr. Fiesel was not able to be here tonight, so we're down to reports of officers. Fire Department report. Chief, what you got for us?
Thanks, Mayor. I really don't have anything else to add to the report, unless you have any questions.
Anybody have any comments or questions about the fire report? All right. Oh, yeah, thank you. You're welcome. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Is this a roll call vote? This is just a voice vote. It used to be, that's right, that's what I'm confused. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, down to the police department report.
Mayor, I'll just say that we have 2 vacancies that we're looking to fill. And we've been working on backgrounds on some candidates. We accepted applications through last Friday. So we've been working on backgrounds and preliminary interviews. And hopefully we'll have a couple of candidates ready next week. We've already got time carved out for the 25th. So hopefully we'll be back to a full staff after those last 2 vacancies. With the new year upon us, we're working on our 2021 annual report. And I've already started on our next year 22-23 budget proposal. So if anyone's looking for a good time, you can stop by the PD and help us with the annual report, budget stuff, and just have a blast going through those things. And then lastly, just to talk about the gun safety again, we do have several gun locks available. They've been provided free to us through different crime prevention coalitions across the state. The last I looked, we had at least a box full for free to anyone that wants one. And anytime we can get into a school, whether it be an elementary or preschool, we love to repeat that message of if you see something, whether it's a gun or anything else, don't touch it, find an adult that can be applied to a lot of different situations. So it's the right message to keep pushing. That's all I have.
I have a question. So I was looking over your reports from this year last year, and I noticed 0 juvenile charges this month.
Isn't that great?
I just wonder where those guys were when I was young.
Right.
That never happened when we were little.
I was on your Xbox. That's just something that happens.
Any questions or comments? I entertain a motion.
Move for receiving file.
I'll second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. City administrator. Oh, take it away.
Okay. I like to update on our projects every month and start with the city building. It is winter time, but there is progress. So the good news to report there is the weather hasn't been awful. So they are continuing some of the exterior work, the bricks going on the outside and the rear. Inside, there's a lot of work going on, even though you can't see it. So most of the infrastructure is in the entire building, including the addition. The windows are in, with the exception of the back stairwell and the front entry. And the selections have been made for all the finishes, which is outside my pay grade a little bit. Mine too. But we've been collaborating as a staff, and we're working with Sherry Thompson, who has been fabulous. So, you know, all the selections of tile, all the finishes, tile, colors, and painting, you know, there are a million things that go into a building that you don't realize have to be selected. Door hardware, colors of doors, cabinets, filing cabinets, chairs, everything that goes in the building have all been finalized in the last 2 weeks. So we're in the home stretch for the city building. When we get good weather and we're able to finish the detail work on the outside, then it will all come together. And the inside hopefully will be ahead of the outside at that point. But we're not discouraged at all by the progress of the city building. So a couple of meetings. This council met with the school board last week. Had a very productive meeting. Had an opportunity to share and collaborate, you know, common projects throughout the community with the school board. We do that periodically, and we did it last year. We did it again this year just because of some individuals being new on our board, their board, new superintendent. So we were able to have good conversation and centered on a couple of items that really will be important moving forward in the next year or so. We've shared with them some of the options that might become available in Tower Park, for example. They have needs around their soccer facility. We are still pursuing acquisition of the Staples building and how those two types of projects can marry together. We talked about common storage facility that is also prompted by the potential of owning that building in Tower Park. So staff will be continuing to provide information about how those two projects might come together. And there was a lot of learning about what's going on in each organization. So I think it was very beneficial. I appreciate everybody being a part of that and council. So we can do that every year or not. But I do think there'll be an opportunity to do it in the future, and I think it's a really good thing that allows the city to carry out a little bit of the uniqueness of just working so closely with our school board. So I encourage that type of continued effort on our part of this. A couple of other projects, the Quarter One development, we heard some preliminary agreement language from them. They're still doing due diligence, likely to see them come forward in the next month or two. The Tower Park Ball Field Shelter, here in the back, working on a agreement, professional services agreement with Raybach, who is doing the city building, to help do some of the project management on that project. We're hoping to initiate that in the next couple of weeks. I think that would be very important moving forward, just because of the need for participation to manage that project. We're not putting it out for bid as a single project, but we will act as the project manager and they will assist us with that. The 22 street resourcing program, we heard a report on that at our last meeting. We are in an accelerated time frame from what we've done traditionally. I think it's the right move. It allows us to proceed quicker in the year, particularly this year with the bid climate. We felt like it was important to do so. But we have a public hearing in this room on January 25th, which is next Tuesday. We are doing that in 2 sessions across the number of streets just to keep our crowd size a little bit smaller. So we'll be doing one of those at 6:30 with selected streets and 7:30 with the remainder streets. The zoning ordinance update is in progress. Kevin Guardian and myself have been working with our consultant, has done great work. We're at a point where there'll be a presentation at our meeting tomorrow night. I'm off the kilter here. This is Tuesday. We usually meet on Monday, so it is Wednesday tomorrow night. And that meeting is also in this room, where there'll be some conversation and updating for the research material that you put together. Again, that's a longer term project. This is an introduction of a lot of the existing conditions. She had an opportunity to interview a lot of the local stakeholders in our community to gain information that helps shape some of the proposed language that will move forward in that process. So we're looking forward to that. We do have an RFP out for city branding. It is a conversation that we've been having for a couple of years. And the timeliness of that is present, given that we are, first of all, Chanda is working with us, and it's a little bit of a pet project for her. She might not call it that, but it wasn't assigned to her, so she does have interest in it. But it is an RFP, so it's not a final decision. We're looking for a partner to work with. With the advent of our DORA ordinance and some of the revitalization work that we're looking for in our business districts, we just feel like it's time to look at our branding and our community and take an opportunity to step back from what we did and really look at what we could be in terms of how we market ourselves and what we look like. So those will be shared with council as we move forward to find a partner to work with us. We think it'll be really beneficial for all of our businesses. The council made approval for the city to support the business district or the business association. And of course, they suffered through the pandemic by not being able to be together and be organized. And we think this is a great initiative to start with their revitalization of who they are. And we do think it's something that our businesses can grab onto, and collectively we can do a better job marketing ourselves as a community. So there's a couple of things I did not include in the memo, and there are two bits of news, and one of them is really good news, and the other is just news. And I'll let you decide which one's which. But keeping in the theme of the day with Connie and people on staff, and certainly the council and mayor, have already been informed that I am intending to retire from the city. And I will be doing so a little bit later this spring. And this is not goodbye, so I'll be here for a while, but it is difficult for me to make that decision but I have done so, and I will be moving on from working with the city. It's been a great experience for me. I've had great opportunities, starting way back when I was a young man at Northern Kentucky University, finishing my degree requirements and looking for job opportunities as I worked my way through school, and I somehow ended up at the door at the city of Fort Thomas. At that time, I worked as a tenant co-op position way back in 1985. So I came to the city building for the first time in April of '85, and I've kind of been reporting here and there ever since, and had great opportunity to take on different roles through the years, and it's been a great experience for me. It's difficult to walk away from, but it is the right time to do it. So we have so many great projects, so much going on in the community, and that makes it really difficult to do. So if you'll indulge me for the length of time it takes, there's a few projects that I would like to see through before I exit stage, not completely. But the city building is certainly one of those. It's hard to believe that I've been reporting to that building for over 35 years, but it'll look a lot different. And I won't actually get to work in the building, but that's okay. But it's going to be a great facility, and I look forward to the fact that our staff and our community is going to have that. And the other work that's been done, and being a part of the visioning process and the development of a community plan and seeing a lot of those things take place has been so rewarding for me. And I'll miss being a part of it.
So you said really good news or good news. Well, the only way I can say really good news is the really good news is we've been able to have him for 35 years. And what he has done for this city, you can't compare to anybody else in the history of the city. He has been absolutely wonderful. It's been so much fun working with him. And as he mentioned, his community plan was such a great thing that we did for this city. We had so many people involved. And the fun part is this implementation and seeing everything that's gotten done. And I've just been so blessed to be able to work with Ron these last couple of years. And you know, I hate to see him go. I've known about this a little while longer than others, and we had chats and tried to change his mind. I'm grateful that he's going to hang around for a little while. That gives us time to do a search and find a replacement for him. But his opportunity is just too good for him to pass up. And it's one of those things where he's going to have to retire eventually. So the timing would have been a little bit better, maybe a year or two from now. But anyway, it's been just wonderful working with you, Ron. And that's the only thing that I could say is good news about it, is what you've done for the city. So thank you so much.
I've got to chime in just for a second too, because I'm one of Connie and I are the two new members on council last year, I guess. And I've told Ron this, very happy for Ron, congratulations. This one hurts a lot for me. I just want people in the community to know, I didn't recognize before I was on council, but the amount of work that he puts in tirelessly, his work ethic, his demeanor, and the amount of care that he has for the city is second to none. Anytime, probably all of us council folks have any questions or things we really need to talk through, Ron is a willing ear and just so much information and education to learn from him. So selfishly, I'm going to miss Ron a lot, but look forward to the next stage in his life. I'm very excited for him, but I think as a community, we've just been so blessed to have him. So congratulations. You deserve it.
I echo those sentiments.
Ben's sentiment. I'm a little disappointed. I'll have a few more months to torture you. If there's anybody that knows me for a long time, I see Andy Ellison's out there. He knows the kind of character I am and what you've had to deal with for 2.5 years. And I don't think Ben could have said it better. I mean, you're writing the cats up here a lot of times, and Harris, we're very, very fortunate to have you. And the city's been very lucky. It's been an honor to work with you. Yeah, so I really appreciate your knowledge you pass on to me or us in the time we've got work. We hope we can carry on.
And the people that have been here for a long time,
I mean, having worked with other administrators gives you an appreciation for this administrator. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. I hope this is advertised nationally. As far as the search goes, it's a seriously good position.
Well, we have to search the nation to find someone to fill your shoes.
I don't think it's
That's
gonna
only
happen.
fair.
It would
There's
be
a
hard to
couple
fill,
people.
Yeah.
but
Yeah, we'll work on that.
process is national.
International.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's go. Yeah.
Hire 2 or 3 people.
Yeah.
That'll make me feel better.
I feel honestly that you are more than one in there. You really do.
Well, thank you all. I look forward to finishing my time with the city. I always promised myself I'd work till the day I walk out the door, and that's what I'm gonna do. So, we'll figure out the exact date, but I hope I'm standing in front of the city building. It certainly has given me cause to motivate them to be done soon. And they are trying, so, it's not the only project I'm gonna see through, but it's one of the more important ones. And there are a number of others, but hopefully I can last that long. But thank you all very much. I do have really good news. I wasn't kidding. The ARPA funds that we have been talking about, and we have worked around very cautiously, intentionally, has come to fruition in terms of where we thought this might be. And the really good news to share is the Department of Treasury, in their infinite wisdom, has now given out final ruling on the use of the ARPA funds. And the restrictive nature that was originally developed, volumes of federal government regulation have now been lifted from communities like the city of St. Thomas. And the categories are similar. The reporting mechanisms are way less. And generally speaking, the monies that have been allocated to each city up to the first 10 million, which we are not saying 10 million, but we certainly qualify under that umbrella, can now be used for any operating expense related to city government. So it allows us to take those funds and use local influence on how we best think that they can be utilized, instead of trying to pigeonhole them into the, the square pegs with the rounds, trying to fit those things the way that they had set up before. So it's very, very good news for the community. It gives council an opportunity to step back and really look at how this can best be utilized to get our community. We had an initial meeting where we studied some of the methods and some of the opportunities that we have. It doesn't make it a free-for-all. There's still some regulation assigned to that, but it does allow use of funds in a lot of different areas that weren't otherwise permitted under the original ruling from the treasury. So the volumes are now reduced to 44 pages.
Wow.
This is
From the government.
This is an overview of which we have just received.
Oh, it's not the final, that's the overview.
It's the overview of the final rule. This is right on that.
The final rules, so
But it does give us an opportunity to start to look at how those funds can best be utilized in the community. And I will be happy to make the council aware of some of the items that might be under consideration moving forward. And we'll present those first to finance committee and then before the entire board of council. But that is really good news. So I'm happy to support that. And that's all I have. That's a lot.
It is a lot, but a great report. Thank you. I have a couple things I want to touch base on what we talked about. One was the Accommodation Council school board meeting. It's fantastic. For those of you who didn't attend, you should attend. Next time we have it, it's extremely informative. The difference between the last one we had 2 years ago and this one was actually significant in my mind. Is that Karen put together a very numbers-based presentation, if you remember correctly. And then this one was more, I don't know how you describe it, it was more
projecting and what they're working on. I would personally, I don't know how the rest of the council feels, I think it was a great information. I would like to see 2 meetings here. I would like to see the projections and what they're working on and a number of these meetings. I think there's a lot of information to consume. I think that we, as a council or as a city, as you said, things overlap pretty good. You know what I mean with our cities, and I'm telling you, I don't think I've talked to a few people after the meeting, those from all council meetings and things, school board meetings, that was the best one they've been to, you know what I mean? And I think it's important for people for us to be as transparent and also understand that, you know, our school system is running thin, you know, financially in the city of dollars and how we spend that money. So I don't know how everybody else feels about that on council, if they'd like to see more than 1 meeting a year with them. But I sure would like to be more information is key success, you know what I mean, from both the city. So I also think that when it comes to ARPA funds, I do think, I know you can go to the finance committee first, I've said this before. I think with that amount of money being set, I think we should, you know, everybody can attend the finance meeting they want to, but it should be a council meeting as a whole for that kind of discussion. It's $4 million we're talking about, I believe, at least. It shouldn't be an option.
Well, we're structured in committee structure with our council. I mean, we do a $14 million budget to start with.
I know, which I think everybody should, I think that should be.
I mean, you know, when you're rolling up sleeves and dealing with numbers and having open conversations with the details, it doesn't always lend to this type of setting. But everybody loves it, and they can all be part of it, is in the community structure like any other one.
Yeah, if we want that, we can go to that, we can do council meetings all over, right? On the trip, yeah. In case you can get them still, not to, I'm not everybody. You're so charming too.
Ask them that.
Yeah,
No, it's certainly possible.
yeah, I just believe everybody should be there. That's my personal opinion. That's all. Right, next subject, I'll go for.
Yeah, new business, consideration for bids for Highland Avenue, Northwood Thomas streetscape replacement.
We advertised for bid, and this is a completion of the streetscape that will run from Lodge Lane on the west side of Northwood Thomas, north side of Highland Avenue down and through the intersection with the place. And it will also include construction of parking lot, the finished parking lot. That was part of the development agreement for one project. So this has been put out to bid. We did receive three bids. The low bid was from Adveta Construction Incorporated for $699,612.36. And then we had 2 higher bids. The engineer's estimate was $705,487. It was provided by some consultants on the project. The project does replace the streetscape area along that frontage, and it will make significant changes that will take the curve out of the street, the sharp curve out of the street in front of the show building. So we've been able to work with that owner, and Brian Shackelford, the owner there, has been fantastic to deal with. Certainly understands the concept. We weren't able, it was actually in the original design of the streetscape, but we were not able to obtain the necessary extension of right-of-way along that frontage to do it this time. But we are able to do it at this time, so we're reconstructing that curve, that horizontal curve in the road. It'll go back to Lodge Lane, it will address drainage, you know, and.
That's what I was gonna ask. That enough because of the.
Yes, it'll rework the drainage in that area. And it will also rework the drainage across the street by the school board office.
Yeah.
That we all have come to know about.
Yes.
So that will disappear as well as part of this project. And then it will extend on the Highland Avenue side, and it will include the area at the Woodland intersection. And it will create a bump out on both sides for that crosswalk at that location. And we are also looking at the control of that crosswalk and the potential of putting the traffic flashing beacon that has been decided completely. We'll be working with the property owner on that corner, I believe it's in attendance, to share all those plans before we move forward. But it will include that intersection that is closely.
A lot of
From a
it,
geometric.
a good bit of the drainage issue, is north of Lodge Lane. And so you're saying Lodge Lane going the other way?
The drainage will, the streetscape will be resolved, and the drainage will be addressed from anywhere where your building is located and moving south.
Okay, because I'm on the wrong side of Lodge Lane where it was really pretty bad.
Good. So, any other, that came from the original pattern.
No, there were two horizontal curves that were in the original plan, right? Yes.
We didn't do one and not the other, now we're just gonna do the one. Okay, that's correct. All right. All right, so you need a motion on that.
Correct.
All right. Anybody like to make a motion to accept this a little bit?
I do too.
Second.
All right, roll call vote, please, we're spending time.
Ms. Kelly? Mr. Henry?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Blau?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is consideration of the business assistance grant program.
I introduced this as a topic for this evening, and I know Jan is here, and Joe and I have collaborated quite a bit internally in the office. With the recent trends around COVID, the number of infections, the staffing levels that our businesses are experiencing, felt like it warranted an opportunity to have discussion, to perhaps consider a program similar to what we've done previously, reaching out to our businesses and offering some assistance through a grant program. There's a number of our businesses that have had closures. They were not forced by decisions through state government, but they were forced to have closures nonetheless. So they're being impacted in a negative way. And we just felt like it might warrant a conversation to offer some type of grant funding for the businesses that we are aware of in our community and perhaps not aware of in our community, that have been impacted negatively through some of the recent trends of the pandemic. So with that, I certainly turn the table over to Jana and or Joe to help explain kind of where we've been in the past. If you recall, we had a application project process where individual business owners were, first of all, we would notify all eligible businesses of opportunity. Then we had an application process, and we could set any kind of standards that we felt were necessary to carry forward a program like this. This is not an end-all. Our businesses are really important to the community. We all know that. We've talked about this repeatedly. We know that the funding and the ARPA funds are somewhat specific, but this certainly falls within the category, even the way it was presented originally. But we feel like there is more of an immediate need, and this is a small step to reach out to our businesses to show that's important. We're not talking about a lot of this type of funding, but it is impactful for the businesses that we do know are going through this. So, Jana, if you want to add anything, please do.
I think most of you have walked around town and you've seen health warning signs. Specifically today, Cobblestone was shut down. It happened yesterday because so many people was in COVID. Grassroots is gone. Barb has to cover shifts tomorrow. We were supposed to have a meeting, but 3 of her employees are out. And I mean, those are just, we can talk about restaurants, but we can also talk about Michelle's story, like the dentistry. She's not able to find help, and so a lot of our businesses are being impacted in pretty big ways, whether they're having to close, shift their hours, open later, and close earlier. I mean, they're losing revenue. And I think there's been a lot of work done here in the city to have these amazing businesses, and we want to hold on to them. And I think offering them some kind of help this time would not only show our appreciation, but maybe help them, with 1 month rent, or holding on to their
So what Joe and I had discussed, we were looking at 2,500, which was similar to what we did last time, and we had, I think, 66 people that
I
applied.
think 66 total originally.
And so we were looking for a lost revenue closure, something like that, from November to this point in time. And we would give them about 3 weeks to apply for that, and we would get it out working with the FTEA and all of our contacts to kind of push that out to the businesses so that we would be able to apply for that money.
Yeah, that's really the positive of all this, is that we've had several grant programs, loan programs. We have already made, almost already made a template for something like this, as well as a pretty cohesive list of businesses. So the idea is to move quickly, and I think with everything we have in place, we know there's a need, and we know we need to move quickly. So we'd certainly love to be able to do this as soon as possible. Questions, discussions, go away. This is open for discussion.
Principal, that's for sure. I'm on board in principle. Just the details, I guess.
Is there a review board? Is that how it goes? It's good for you for the applications?
Yes, I looked at the applications that we had in the past, and we would use a similar format, so we would gather all the information. We would know what they were using it for, we would know, what they lost.
Who makes the final decision?
Well, if they're eligible under the terms that we established, it'll be granted. Yes.
Yeah, we made it pretty open and shut last time. If they met the terms, they were good.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea too. I think it's also kind of unusual. I made a comment in finance committee that the 9 or 10 scenarios worth of English language are up from the government up here to help.
Yeah.
And it puts us in we're in a unique position where we can actually help. And Ron talked about partnering with the business association. We're making a very intentional effort to do that, I think. And so this falls along the line with that. I think it's a great thing.
There would be a motion. Again, we would follow, our intention would be to follow the guideline that we had established previously. The amount is to be defined. We were recommending up to about $2,500 per applicant business. And it would apply to any eligible business.
But then, you think you should limit on it? I mean, so that we heard.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll.
Yeah, I just think that,
I think we did that.
how many businesses in town did we
Yeah.
say there are? I mean, so.
Right.
I think we did that the last time, and then we divided by the number, but I think now the amount is probably more relevant.
I would agree.
But it could be, for example, up to $120,000 until the funds are completed, and it's, they have to make applications.
Correct. The original was we actually reallocated the $60,000 for the program, divided that by the time we received 64 applications. We funded 2 more after the fact because we didn't list everything out, and it was $937.50 fees after the math. This one would be more than that. $125,000 would probably be more realistic for this round.
But we're not certain that we would have the same number.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't think we can set a limit, and we wouldn't be as thorough, I mean, so I don't know. And if you think 125, what does the rest of the council think?
So
On the number.
if applications came in shy of that amount, then the balance would go back into general funds, and there'd be a deadline to apply.
Yes, we would want to put it out and have a deadline and have a not to exceed for the applicants. I mean, it's really up to them to due diligence.
So
If there's a need, they'll find.
the motion tonight would authorize about $225,000 for that program, correct?
Yeah.
I would make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second, and I just want to add that we can also do other things to support our businesses when it comes to COVID averages for our employees. Things like masking, getting vaxxed, getting boosted. It needs to be a big picture and a big puzzle. It's not just about giving out money. It's about being a community and having something.
Other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Aye.
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 the Finance Committee report on disbursements tonight. Down to ordinance resolutions and orders, ordinance 016.
Ordinance number S-16, 2021, an ordinance amending personnel and classification plan for the city of Fort Thomas, and ordinance number 008, 2021.
So, make a motion, please.
So moved.
Is there a second? Discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Kelly. Mr. Henry.
Aye.
Mr. Bud.
Aye.
Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, ordinance 017.
Ordinance number S-17, 2021, ordinance amending ordinance O-07, 2021 by establishing the hourly rate for the administrative assistant. So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Kelly.
Aye.
Mr. Bud.
Aye.
Mr. Blau.
Aye.
Ms. Rose. Aye.
All right, now we have a municipal order, M01.
Municipal order M-01, 2022, municipal order appointing Steve Wallach as a member of the Board of Adjustment of the City of Fort Thomas, Campbell County, Kentucky, and setting his term of office.
Approval for that.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We have two executive orders. 001.
Executive order M-01, 2022, an executive order reappointing Susan Stewart as a member of the Renaissance Board of the City of Fort Thomas, Campbell County, Kentucky, and setting her term of office.
No action required on that. Executive order E02.
Executive order B-2, 2022, an executive order providing for and appointing Samuel Shelton to the position of administrative assistant for the City of Fort Thomas, Campbell County, Kentucky, and fixing his compensation.
So no action needed on that.
I have a question. Just one, I mean, one related to that appointment. Have we had previously spoken about hiring a code enforcement person? Is there any progress on that?
Actually, that's part of, Sam's
Oh, it's got
job
a
role. Yes, in that role, yes. It's his favorite part of the job. Sam, we all come from humble beginnings, young man. But no, it is a portion of his job description. He's going to be working directly with Kevin on a daily basis, as well as GMS. So he's kind of supporting a number of our positions.
I do believe at some point we need to look at getting maybe a retired officer or something. They already have a lot of duties. And I do want to say, Sam, I don't think there's anybody who has earned a role here, paid their dues with the city that you have. I mean, I started myself where we were already down there years ago, and people don't realize how young you were. I guess I should say when you're still young to me, but young you were when you started acting in the city. That's what we remember. So, thank you.
Ran for council at 17?
Yeah.
Did it?
I'm grateful he didn't make it on council because he's so much more beneficial to the city, working for the city than he would be up here, seriously. He's been great for the city. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're more now, so congratulations and thank you for all the hard work you do for the city. Okay, we are at the end of our agenda. At this point, due to Connie's leaving town for a really cool job, I would like us to consider going into executive session to discuss potential candidates for a replacement. During that process, the city attorney and the administrative officer will explain the processes that we will need to follow. If we determine that we are going to create some kind of process to make this decision, that would be done in public. So we would come back out to do that. The only thing we can discuss is the rules around it and potential candidates in executive session. So if someone would like to make that motion.
Eric, I don't know if that's right.
If I could, Mr. Mayor, actually, I think what Councilman Lau's getting ready to say probably is that it's really a little bit of a little different. We're not permitted to go into closed session to discuss procedures and policies and how you want to make that happen. We can go into executive or closed session strictly for purposes of discussing a particular candidate and or candidates.
Right, right.
I apologize. I should have left the attorney. Take it over, yes. So, well, basically, what you're saying is what I understand is we can discuss how we're gonna come about this, but we can only go back in an executive session to discuss particular candidates when we're ready to make a decision on that candidate. Is that correct? So we need to come up with the how now.
In open meeting, and then if you want to discuss candidate or candidates, you can go into a closed session. Any action, any vote has to refer to open.
Should we have a special meeting then called in a
That's what I
short amount of time and then have?
Well, that's part of the description.
If I could, we kind of got short circuit. Let me go through the process a little bit. We've got a resignation letter effective tomorrow, and that really does not become effective until your next regular meeting, which will be February 22nd. At that point, then that resignation is effective. That 30-day period kicks in, wherein you have the obligation, duty, right, to go ahead and establish procedures, vet your candidates, and then vote for replacement. If you do not do that within 30 days, then the governor will take over, you lost jurisdiction. At that point, the 30-day period, if you do the counting, your March 21 date will be within that period. So as long as you make a decision by that time, now you have the opportunity to do special meetings, and it may very well make sense in light of the fact that it's a process and it's an important position. And once you get to the point where you've made that decision, that term will be for the complete unexpired term of Ms. Grubbs, which takes her all the way through December 31st. Now, one of the things that I think you may want to consider is if we have candidates that will be running for these positions, the deadline for announcing your candidacy is right now, at least January 25, and there are some reasons I can think of that you may want to have this type of meeting beforehand or after you can. And so, with that said, now I think we had a discussion.
I've got a couple of questions for the city attorney, just a clarification. Let me know if I'm misunderstanding. So, Councilwoman Grubbs submitted her resignation, it's effective tomorrow, but it doesn't, what's the terminology used? It doesn't actually take effect until 30 days after that. Which is our next meeting, more or less, right?
Yes, and the reason being is that resignation can be withdrawn. It can be withdrawn all the way up until the time that that next scheduled meeting, normal scheduled meeting, which will be February 22nd. So that's really when you have an effective resignation.
So we will not, thank you, will we have appointed somebody by the February 22nd meeting? I know we don't have to. Are we even able to?
Yes. Tim, and you're absolutely correct. I think the other point you made is it doesn't become effective until your next meeting. That next meeting could also be a special. But if you hold or conduct a special meeting, then your 30-day clock starts on the time frame that you have to fill the position before that right is deferred to. So you just need to be a little careful about calling special meetings, not knowing exactly when you'll make a final distribution. But it is not an effective resignation until this group meets again at a meeting, then a legal meeting, either a special meeting or your next regular meeting.
I think we have time to come up with the rules now so that there isn't too big a gap without the new person tonight. How do we want about it, right? We could discuss how we like to go about interviewing applications, or is there a set standard to that works?
You can do that right now.
I mean, but there's no set rules on how we have to decide on what candidates we would like to hear from or not hear from. If we want to say, apply by January 25th, you apply, you come speak, that same night we go meet, discuss everybody that's decided to apply for the position.
That's correct.
Something along those lines.
Set up the guidelines, the mechanism, the procedures that you want to
It'd just be like hiring somebody. Basically.
So,
And you can create a process in any form that you wish. I can just share that we did have a vacancy a number of years ago. The process you come on, that's right, the council at that time, that's correct, was that there were just applications received by council up to a certain date.
Yeah.
And then those people that brought their names forward were considered by the council in closed session. There was no interview process. You can do that. You can set any you can set a grading scale and have your interview. You can interview them all or pick top candidates and interview. You know, there's any number of methods. There's no statutory requirement about the method you use. You know, you have to be able to create that method in a public.
Yeah, I think you brought up a very valid point that July 25th is the deadline. Or January 25th is the deadline, I'm sorry. I mean, that's not very much time to get the word out there that we're interviewing. I don't know if it's possible. To me personally, I like this, how I would like to see it done. I'd like to see a deadline set tonight for a special session. Possibly, it could be the next meeting if you wanted to. They have to apply, resume, and then I think that they should all have the opportunity to speak. No questions, perhaps. You know what I mean, from us.
That could be a pretty arduous process.
Right.
I remember last time when we brought in Chuck Johnson, when Adam Meyer took his position. I would maybe suggest that we advertise that there's, retirement on council, and we're inviting interested applicants to submit their name information. And then we have a pool of candidates, and then I don't think we need to interview every candidate.
I don't think interview, but I think it'd be nice if they got a chance for 2 minutes. You're only gonna have 5 people. You know what I mean? 5 or 10 people, and I think.
That's not an area.
12 people, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 40 minutes of our day decide whether or not that they are. I personally think I need to hear from somebody to understand their philosophies and how they speak, how they represent themselves, to see if I want to. You know what I mean? Because this is an interview. We get a chance to interview someone that we think that we can work with versus elected to. So it's a unique opportunity.
Just a thought, I think it's important that people have the opportunity to apply. We are going to be under a time gun here because I think that it's also important that we make a decision prior to the filing deadline, because that can affect people who are considering or not considering the file for 2022. So we have a week to do that. What's that?
I don't think we can pull this off. I was happy to hear from our attorney that the clock really doesn't start ticking until next month's meeting for the 30-day deadline.
Correct.
So, we have some time. I'd hate to rush in, that quickly and not give other people enough time.
Honestly, if they feel like they want to run, they can apply, they can run, they can file, and then if they don't get the job, they can withdraw their application. So that's on them. They have 7 days to decide here. Like they can fill out a form online, go down if they have something to sign. Then they apply and they say, you know what, I didn't get it. I can withdraw my candidacy. So that gives them 7 days, and it gives them time to do a little more thought to what they're actually signing up for. Call us and see what it's really like.
We need more than a week to get the word out.
I'm just saying that if they want to do that, I'm trying to give them the opportunity. I mean, I'm not saying we interview next Monday. I'm saying they can still interview 2 or 3 weeks from now. You know what I mean? Give time to get the word out. But if they really are serious, we can get something out on social media through our own methods and share it. And social media is wonderful for that kind of thing. And we can do our best to get people to the knowledge there. That's all we can only do so much. They haven't done it. They want to file. So that doesn't mean we have an interview. I mean, I'm just saying, give them the opportunity, they don't have to.
Yeah,
I just want to make sure.
I don't think if someone didn't get the position on council, they would withdraw their candidacy, so I wouldn't. I know, it's effective tomorrow, you're welcome to take the time.
No, I know what you're saying, I'm just trying to talk out loud with everybody here.
There might be qualified people who would want to serve, but not necessarily want to run.
No, I agree with that 100%. I'm not saying they can do it next Monday. No, does anybody not understand that? I'm saying, I don't care if we do it in a month from now. I just would like to get them on here sooner or later to get them involved because there's a lot to learn. You know, the big finance committee, the budget comes up soon, so the longer they have to get the information, the better off they are for us and the city. So what do we want to set a deadline?
Let me throw out a suggestion. I know I'm not part of this decision. It's strictly up to council. It's not the mayor's position at all. I'm just going to throw out a recommendation to you. And specifically, it's because with Ron leaving at some point in the near future, and Tim's doing a great job, but he's newer at this job, and Jan was sitting there, we had a wealth of information. I was going to suggest the next person in line on the voting was Roger Peterman, is getting Roger back to fulfill her unexpired term. Because of his experience on council, because he's an attorney, because I think he can be valuable as far as that, keeping that continuity going for the remainder of this year. And then that wouldn't necessarily influence anybody running for council trying to pick one person or another. It's just a suggestion.
I think Carlo was second.
I think he'd be a great choice, but I don't know if he'd do it.
I also think Carlo was second.
Can we discuss
Roger was eighth.
He shan't.
I'm not sure.
I don't think he was next.
Discuss it with candidate.
And you don't know who use that.
As well.
Yeah, I don't.
I'm just permitted to do it. Okay.
I personally, I think if he wants to have the job, he should have to apply like everybody else. I think we have new people. I think we have 3 new people right now that have filed one that should have the same opportunity to be on here and be invested. I think if he would like to be here, then he should apply like anybody else. Still, like I said, you know.
Did the method you used to replace Adam Meyer a couple of years ago work well?
Well,
Do you feel like it was a successful endeavor?
yeah, I mean, we had a lot of qualified candidates. I think John was chosen because of your area and circles. There wasn't a filing of candidates.
Right.
We had circled the public office.
It's not broke, don't fix it, but I know that time to fix it, so.
That was a pretty quick consensus that we reached on. I mean, it wasn't.
They did apply though, right? Last time.
I agree that I think that we should have an opportunity for people to apply so that we know if there's an interest. If they have an interest, to whoever made the comment, we don't necessarily know for sure if we're not going to have an interest for anybody else. People should be able to apply. And I think we should see where we are. I don't know that I really want to get into a situation where we're conducting interviews of every person. That gets a little bit awkward from, at least for me personally, because it's not an election being held. I think we can.
Said speech, never said interview. I said they can talk. I would like to hear them speak. I won't ask any questions, but at the very least, applications and resume. You know what I mean? So I do think it's important. Well, that's my personal opinion. I'd like to do an applications list, but never said interview. No, I don't think that's necessary. I think it's unfair unless we all ask the same exact questions.
That's exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so, you know what I mean? So, and then personal ties can go into that as well, you know what I mean? So, the rest of that. So, I think at the very least we should set a deadline for applications. And then if we want to, we can discuss the process later. And then because all we're going to do is vote on those applications, right? Applicants. And we'll talk about it however we do it in executive session. Is that correct? That's not last time? If you guys don't want to, give them a chance to speak, that's up to you. I would personally like to hear them, but. I mean, it's 2 minutes, 12 applicants, 45 minutes of our day to work with someone.
I mean, yeah, I'm not gonna fight you about that. I'd be comfortable. I think we need to have an application process and decide on a deadline. I'd be fine if after that deadline passed, we met an executive session and figured out who was gonna fulfill the remainder of Connie's change.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm fine with that. You know, we can do an executive session after our next meeting, have a special session where it's just determining that it come up, so it wouldn't feel as long. So, what, Lisa, Ken, what do you?
I see the benefit, I guess, the way, mostly I do with Roger, because he, you know, is able to walk in, catch up quickly, because he's done this for so many years. You know, I see that, and there are opportunities to interview people, but I also don't know that 2 minutes is gonna be long enough to.
Well, that's why we got our application and resume to review it beforehand.
Right.
You know what I mean? So,
And then, I mean, couldn't we do it where we pick a date, and we're accepting applications for interested parties who want to fill out this term, up until X date, 3 weeks from now or whatever, and then after we proceed on the applications, they would come in at our invitation, we could meet and say, okay, you know, let's get our top 6 or whatever, and then by invitation, we could be calling them in for interviews. What about that process? Does that make sense?
you could, I mean, I don't see the problem. We would have to go into executive session and narrow down our top 6. Who would be put in charge of not narrowing down our top 6?
It would be a majority of council.
Yeah, then that would be executive session, right? So then we come to executive session.
I don't want to suggest that you're overcomplicating it.
I think you were trying to, I think you were looking for the right man.
No, I truly think that, your question before, Connie, I think if you get applications, people that are interested in serving in this community in this capacity, it will show in the cover letter and the process that them submitting. And I think it gets a little bit awkward to think that you're only asking certain ones to come in and speak to you, because that means you're excluding somebody else automatically. And the reason that you're allowed to do it in the executive session is so that you can have a very frank and open conversation among yourselves to see who fits the best, and meets the goals of what you want to accomplish together.
It's a unique opportunity for sure.
Yeah, it is. But, you know, it sounds like you're headed toward just getting a deadline, a date, which is easy to put on your calendar. You could also set,
I think we have
a special meeting to do the vetting process in a closed session at that time. Even though it's a special meeting, you can't make action unless you go into open session after that. And that way you're bringing them on board before your regular meeting.
I think you could do the application process just prior to the next meeting. Then we could discuss the details after we see how many applicants we get on the February meeting to see how we want to move forward, because we can have a meeting on the day after that meeting if we feel that, we could have them due by that Thursday prior to the meeting. The applications come out with our packet at that meeting. We review them, see how many applicants we actually have, and then in that meeting Monday we can decide how we want to go about the next step to decide this. If we want to go to executive session that night, if we feel like we've had enough time, or we feel we want to hear from them, then we can do another special session.
Do we have it written out somewhere, what we did last, the procedure last time?
Yeah.
So,
Yes, it's right here.
They applied. They applied, and you guys picked.
Resignation was submitted in early December. There was a deadline of December 21st to submit applications, which was the day before the meeting. At the meeting, went into session, chose the individual, came out of the session, and announced that person was going. So it took less than a month.
So wait, so we accepted application, reviewed them, and it's, oh, my bad. Where was I then?
Yeah,
Today's the 18th. If you accept them, if you give them 3 weeks to get applications in, then it gets to the 8th. That's 2 weeks before the February meeting, which gives you about 2 weeks to look at them individually, and then it's the executive session after that meeting.
I like that idea. I would ask that you, as the applications come in, as you get shared individually with us, as opposed to interest was possible to review.
Second.
Now, is that enough time? Do you think?
Yeah.
Just kidding.
So we're gonna advertise.
So what date did you want to advertise? Sorry.
That's what I'm concerned, you guys can publish it as soon as you want to.
And the deadline being, I'm sorry, was.
What I said?
I don't know.
February 8th is 3 weeks from now and 2 weeks before your next meeting.
I think we can give them a little longer. I think we can give them one. We don't need 2
You
weeks.
don't need 2 weeks to do that, we can do it on the 15th.
That's why I think we should give
Yeah.
them more week to that.
So do February 15th, that's 1 week before your next meeting, you guys can get council the applicants before that meeting, and then have an amazing conversation in closed session. After that meeting.
Probably just comes down to whether we're onboard somebody before your February meeting, or at the February meeting, where they really would start participating in the meeting process.
We're always one short of this.
Well, is there a chance that we could follow this guide and follow this schedule? Maybe we could have executive session prior to the meeting, right? And then how that wouldn't work, have that person at that.
And then you have them all here, and then all 7 of you can go home. You're gone, you know.
The way that you would do it prior to the call a special meeting, have it in closed session, open the meeting to a public meeting, make the announcement. Then they are officially appointed, and then they could attend the next regular meeting.
Yeah, so we got that executive session prior.
Special meeting, and then go into executive session.
I definitely see value in having them be a part of our vendor review.
I agree. I think the sooner they're on here, the better.
Right.
So the Friday prior to the 22nd, you got a special meeting with that guys?
You can special meeting at any time before the next meeting is the 22nd.
So maybe we say February original date, and then we do February, what day is February 15th?
The 15th is a Tuesday.
You can do 15th or 16th for special session, special meetings, straight, and then that'll give them the weekend to understand, to comprehend, and we can let them know they have the job that night, and then they can be ready for council on Monday. It gives time for Melissa to get everything ready, set it up. Tuesday or Wednesday, what day do you think would work better for you? Yeah, rock star over there. Melissa the rock star, she had it done. So I think I like that idea. I'm ready to rock and roll. So let's agree on a date to have application by, which is, what's the Friday of that week?
The 11th.
February 11th, and a special meeting on the 15th.
On the
Yeah.
15th?
Yeah. So applications to the 11th.
Which is a week before your regular meeting.
That's right.
So you can make a selection on the 15th, and then attend the first regular meeting.
And that means the 30 days starts on the 15th, but
Correct.
hopefully that will be moved because they'll have just already.
And then to do the special session, we're gonna do it at 7 PM, right? Just the same as normal. Or you want to do guys put it in earlier? 5.
For the special?
Yeah. Alright, so we're doing that, and this is not gonna be, we've all decided, no, you decided, no. That we're not listening to them, we're just gonna do simple resumes then, right? We're not gonna listen to them.
Work off what they submit.
We'll work off with this one, okay? They can if they want. We had a police officer do that. It was during the promotion, after he brought all his personal references up via video, which was a nice touch. I'm just kidding. When we did the sergeant lieutenant promotions.
All right. Well, okay with that decision? We're in agreement? All right.
We're all agreed?
If there's nothing else that would come before council,
I'll move to adjourn.
we are adjourned.
Yeah.